When we talk about donor privacy, it can kind of evoke this image of billionaires behind closed doors, pulling strings, kind of like little puppet masters. But that's not real. The average donor isn't rich. Most donors are everyday people like you and me. They're parents and teachers, small business owners who are chipping in 25, 50, maybe $100 if it's a holiday to causes that they care about. And right now, that basic act, donating to a cause you care about, could be putting you at risk. There are people in power who want to force those names onto public lists. And this isn't a partisan issue, whether you are donating to your church or an LGBT group, whether you want to give to a pro-life pregnancy center or to an abortion clinic, they want to know who you are. The average donor isn't some millionaire in a suit. The average donation to a nonprofit is $128. A majority of donors give under $100 per year, with 80% of charitable donations being under $500. These aren't shadowy puppet masters behind closed doors. These are the people in your community who are trying to make a difference. These are the same people that are showing up to your local food drive, who are trying to get you to sign a petition. These are the people who are involved in your community. That means that when new disclosure laws talk about releasing the names of donors, they're not talking about targeting the rich and powerful, they're targeting you. These laws mean that you could end up in a government database or leaked to the public, and we've seen that happen already. These laws aren't about transparency, they're about control. Attempts at forcing donor disclosure aren't new. In 1956, during the Civil Rights era, the state of Alabama tried to force the NAACP to turn over their member and donors list. That wasn't about accountability, it was about intimidation. They wanted to expose these supporters so they could be intimidated and harassed. They tried to use forced disclosure to intimidate people into silence. Luckily, the Supreme Court stepped in, and in NAACP versus Alabama, they ruled that the First Amendment protects the right to associate privately. In their words, compelled disclosure of affiliation may constitute an effective restraint on freedom of association. They understood something that we're in danger of forgetting. Privacy isn't about secrecy, it's about safety. Privacy is part of free speech. You can't participate in movements, particularly ones that the government might not be fond of, if you're afraid of being targeted. But some states are trying to go around that precedent by crafting new laws that would require public disclosure of nonprofit donors. States like California, Arizona, Maine, lawmakers have been pushing bills that would force nonprofits to hand over their donor lists, even if the donor only gave a couple of bucks. This doesn't just impact one side of the aisle. This isn't just going to affect one specific issue. It's not about left or right. This is about power and how disclosure laws hand over power to the most extreme voices on both sides. If the government can force donor disclosure, everyone's at risk. Let's be realistic. If you knew that donating would mean that your name would show up on a searchable list where any psychopath extremist could find it, would you still donate? Maybe you would, but for a lot of people, they wouldn't take the risk. And that's kind of the point. These laws create a chilling effect where people stop giving, stop associating, stop speaking up, not because they don't care, but because they're afraid. That's not democracy. That's fear-based compliance. That's a surveillance culture. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, religious, secular, socialist, libertarian. If your freedom depends on government approval, you don't have freedom. This is why the Personal Privacy Protection Act, PPPA, is so important. PPPA is model legislation that does three things. It bans state officials from demanding nonprofit donor lists. It protects your right to give anonymously, and it ensures that whether you're giving $5 or $50,000, that you don't have a target on your back. This type of legislation has already been passed in states like Nevada, but it's something that every state should have. Once donor lists are exposed, the damage is kind of already done. People might try to tell you that these laws are about PACs or mysterious billionaires, but they're not the ones who are going to be most impacted by these laws. This affects real people, activists supporting causes on both the left and the right. And it's not just targeting political nonprofits. It's churches, soup kitchens, civil rights orgs, domestic violence shelters, organizations that have every right and a very vital need for privacy. Privacy isn't about hiding, it's about protecting. The founders wrote anonymously. The civil rights movement relied heavily on private support. And today, people of every political and religious background depend on privacy to safely support the causes that they care about. If you've ever dropped a couple of dollars into a church's basket, donated to a shelter, or supported a movement, you deserve privacy. The PPPA defends that, and it reminds us that transparency is for the government, privacy is for the people. I really fear we're forgetting that.